दोस्तों, आजकल कोरोना वायरस नाम के एक वायरस की वजह से बहुत हलचल मच रही है। ये लोगों को बहुत बीमार बना रहा है, पर घबराओ मत। हमारी रक्षा के लिए कुछ उपाय हैं, जिनका प्रयोग हम कर सकते हैं। अपना ख्याल रखिए और सुरक्षित रहिए।
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining in. A special welcome to the new joinees today, and a very good evening. So, welcome to day 2. Today we are going to discuss about further into price action analysis. But before we get into it, I would just like to go a little brief of what we did yesterday, right? Maybe like a revision for the old ones and a brief about for the new ones. Before we get into it, a disclaimer, we are not a SEBI registered investment advisor. All stocks that we are going to discuss and taken as examples are only for learning and education purpose. Do not consider these as buy and sell recommendations. Do conduct your own due diligence before taking any action or consult your investment advisor for the same. All right, so yesterday we discussed about what price action is actually. And we discussed the importance of analyzing price as a boil down of everything that we see. जो भी हमें मार्केट में जितने भी फैक्टर्स को कंसिडर करना पड़ता है, उन्हीं सभी फैक्टर्स का हमें एक फाइनल जो आउटकम मिलता है वो हमारी प्राइस है। तो हमें प्राइस को कैसे एनालाइज करना चाहिए अच्छे से, ताकि हम बाकी सारे फैक्टर्स को भी एक बार बॉइल डाउन करके पता कर सकते हैं। और हमेशा यही एक रहता है दैट योर प्राइस मूव्स फर्स्ट एंड योर न्यूज फॉलो लेटर, जिसमें हमने डीएलएफ का एक एग्जांपल देखा था कि जब डीएलएफ उसके लोस पे ट्रेड कर रहा था और अर्लियर सपोर्ट लेवल पे था, तो कैसे सडनली उसमें न्यूज फ्लो पॉजिटिव होने लग गया एंड डीएलएफ जस्ट मूव्ड अप फ्रॉम a 150 level to a 215 plus level and gave 30% returns in just a span of 15 to 20 days. This I'm talking about is last year October end to the first 2 weeks of November data. So this is why price is important. And now that we got into the methods of analyzing the price action. So there were 4 methods that we talked about. Yesterday we discussed on trendline breakouts, supports and resistances. And today we are going to talk about candlestick charting and gaps. In trendline breakouts, we discussed about what is a trend, how do you identify those, how do you draw a trend line, how Spider has this wonderful feature of auto trend line, which helps us in, filtering the stocks easily. So basically your trend is nothing but your direction of your price movement. We have an uptrend, downtrend, and a consolidation zone. Consolidation zone is generally defined as a 5% of a price movement from your high to the low, continued for a period of 2 to 3 months. All right. Now, support and resistance, we took quite a lot of examples on support and resistance. How do we identify those? Support and resistance generally is not a one price point. It is a zone kind of thing, which we saw yesterday on daily charts, where there are multiple prices, but it forms a zone, right? And similarly on the the demand zone and the supply zone, we saw it that way. Then we saw that consolidation patterns are not only the sideways movement, they can be either upwards or downward sloping channels also. Anyone has any questions from yesterday can just let us know, and otherwise we will continue with today's session now.
Okay, yesterday she had mentioned about double confirmation. Please ask her to explain again. Double confirmation.
Yeah, so what I meant by saying double confirmation is that you should have multiple confirmations on a chart before you enter into a price action trade. By multiple confirmations, I meant to say that a stock is trading at a resistance level and you see a bearish pattern as well along with it. That is when you enter into a short trade. in particular stock or index, let's say. Like currently, if I just have to show you Nifty over here has been trading in this, channel range for me. So every time it comes over here, I will look for another confirmation on a smaller time frame so that I can enter into a short trade into the same. Any other questions?
Guys, do you have any other questions about yesterday's session?
All right, I guess it was quite a lot clear to everyone. We'll move down
Sure.
to today's session then.
Great, perfect.
So today we are going to talk about candlestick charting. Now, first of all, let me show you what a candle is. All right, let me remove the colors for now so that we can see them later on. All right, this is your candlestick chart where you have a wick on the top and the bottom and a body in the between. Yes, over here, if you can see clearly, this is a candlestick, how it is formed. So when you have a green candle, your open is here, your close is higher than that. This upper side is your high and the lower side is your low. Similarly, in a bearish candle or a red candle, when your open is over here at the top and your close is at the bottom, this is your high and this is your low. So candlestick study, according to me, is all about psychology of the mass, because we take 4 factors into consideration over here: open, high, low, and close, which is actually the summary of the entire market together. So what do we mean by when we are taking, the high and the low? Your high and the low defines the range for that day. उस दिन के लिए आपके प्राइसेस कितना ऊपर और नीचे गए थे, तो आपके बायर्स और सप्लायर्स ने कितना जोर लगाया था प्राइसेस को ऊपर या नीचे ले जाने के लिए, वो हमारा इस दिन का रेंज बन जाता है, जिसे हम परसेप्शन भी कहते हैं कि आपका परसेप्शन, मतलब प्राइस आप कितना ऊपर ले जा सकते हैं या नीचे ले जा सकते हैं, वो एक परसेप्शन आपका बनता है, जिसे हम रेंज कहते हैं, which is your high minus your low. Then comes next, which is your body. What you see over here, the colored portion, this is called the body of the candle, which is your open minus the close. अगर आपका क्लोज ज्यादा है तो आपको ग्रीन बॉडी मिलेगा, अगर आपका क्लोज ओपन से कम है तो आपको एक रेड बॉडी मिलेगा. दिस इज कॉल्ड योर कंफर्मेशन. कंफर्मेशन मतलब कि उस दिन बायर्स या सेलर्स में से कौन जीता. वेरी सिंपल. तो अगर आपका ग्रीन बॉडी बना, मतलब आपके बायर्स वर इन फोर्स, जिन्होंने प्राइजेस को, सेलर्स ने प्राइजेस नीचे तो लेकर गए पर इतना नहीं लेकर जा सके, तो वो ऊपर आके ग्रीन क्लोज हुआ है. सिमिलरली वाइज वर्सा फॉर द रेड कैंडल, कि आपके प्राइजेस खुले थे बट उसको सेलर्स ने उनका डोमिनेशन बढ़ गया और वो लोग उसे नीचे लेकर गए और नीचे क्लोज करवाया. सो योर परसेप्शन एंड योर कंफर्मेशन इज डन. नाउ व्हाट these patterns signify are of importance only जब आपको वो टॉप या एक बॉटम पे मिलते हैं. किसी भी ट्रेंड के आपको अगर टॉप या बॉटम पे ये आपको मिलता है, तभी इसका एक कंफर्मेशन हमें मिलता है कि हाँ, ये पैटर्न यहाँ पे रेलेवेंस है, इंपॉर्टेंस है इसका. अगर आपको ट्रेंड के बीच में कहीं पे कोई भी पैटर्न्स मिल रहे हैं, तो उसे हम कंसिडर नहीं करते हैं व्हेन वी आर एनालाइजिंग कैंडलस्टिक पैटर्न्स. ऑलराइट. अब कैंडलस्टिक पैटर्न्स के बहुत सारे टाइप्स हैं, जैसे आपको ऑलरेडी नाम दिख रहे हैं. देयर आर डोजीज एंड एनगल्फिंग एंड हैंगिंग मैन एंड हैमर, बहुत सारे नाम यूज किए जाते हैं. बट इनको बेसिकली हम 3 हिस्सों में क्लासिफाई करते हैं. वी जस्ट बाइफरकेट दीज कैंडल्स totally based on the real body formation, right? One is when you have a small body and wicks on both the side. The second one is when your body is negligible, like a doji. And the third one is when you have real long bodies. So हम candles को 3 हिस्सों में classify कर रहे हैं, right? और तीनों की एक अलग psychology बनती है यहाँ पे. अब सबसे पहले जब हम बात कर रहे हैं तो हम लोग जाएंगे spinning tops पे. So spinning tops are nothing but जब आपका real body is small. If you can see over here, the real body of the candle is very small over here, and there are wicks on either side of the candle, right? So this is your spinning top formation, which shows that there has been a tug of war going on between the bulls and the bears, and nobody has been able to take up a dominant control because we do not have a strong real body, a longer real body, right? Then we have next one is the high wave candle. High wave means that there, it really means that there has been a lot of confusion amongst the buyers and the sellers, and nobody could win the situation, but the confusion was so huge that the prices had very high volatility. So the prices moved really high and really low, but nobody could win over the same thing, and there has been a very small real body of the same. The next one after that, what we have defined is into a doji. So what is your doji? Your doji is nothing but when you have a very thin body of your candle, right? It's a very powerful signal by itself, because we always have heard of a gravestone doji, which is supposedly considered to be very scary. It's a bearish signal. And reverse of that is your dragonfly doji, which have bullish implications. Then we have different other formations into doji. We will just see that on the software in a while. And then you have long real bodies, which define the strength of your moment for the day. We are going to do only 2 patterns of that today, the bullish, the engulfing, and the piercing. There is a very thin line of difference between the two, right? Now let's get down to something practical over here. The spider has this nice feature of filtering out the candlestick formations for me. I just have to press a Control C and I would get the names of the patterns that I would want to look into. You have all the names over here, of which we are just going to take a few into consideration. So if we want to study about, let's say, the real small bodies, the spinning top formations that we saw. So which ones were there as the spinning top formations? We had hanging man, then we had a hammer, inverted hammer. So they even distinguish over here with the red and the green, which is again helpful for me कि मुझे, if I am a bearish trader, so मुझे हमेशा short करना पसंद है, so I would just filter out the red ones for me and forget the green ones. And if I'm a bullish trader, I'm looking for a long position, so I will just filter out the green ones for myself, right? Okay. So yeah, we have hammer, hanging man, shooting star and all. So we'll just filter out those over here. We filtered 2 bearish and 2 bullish. Okay. Now this makes my work easier. I have to just spot as to if it's coming at the top of the formation or at the bottom. Again, they are only of significance when you find them at the top or the bottom, not in the middle of the formations, right? Here. So I have a hammer formation over here, right? Now again, one thing to clarify here is that the color of the real body does not matter. Your color can be green or red. It just has to be at the top or the bottom. Okay. Now, for examples, what I would do is that me taking up my own examples would seem like as if I've pre-prepared and come. I would just want the audience to give me some names which they would want to see over here. And I'll make a quick note down of 5 to 6 talks and discuss the same.
So
So can
audience,
we have some stock names flowing in?
okay, it's SBI India. Just dial
Someone's
PVR
favorite is Just Dial. We had that
yes,
yesterday too.
yes, and the same person.
Oh, lovely. I really want
Uh,
to know what position he holds into it.
okay, next is
Yeah,
PVR weekly chart.
PVR weekly.
Yeah.
We have a long-term investor here.
Mhm. And then there comes an Oro Pharma,
Okay, that's again. Okay,
HPCL, Divis Lab, Infosys, Bajaj Finance.
okay. I guess that's enough for this one. What I would do is that for every topic that we discuss, I would take five stocks every time. So that would be up to Nitesh to, give chance to the new ones every time we're discussing something new. So I've just made a list of these 5, 6 stocks that we've got over here, and we'll discuss candlestick patterns on those.
Sure.
All right.
Let's move
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. So let's go first with SBI. Okay. So again, if we see over here, okay, I would skip this one. I would skip this one. This one could be taken into consideration. Again, one more thing I would like to just stress on it. Always wait for the close of the candle and never ever place a trade with just the candle signal confirmation until you have considered the risk and reward of your potential trade. So only candlesticks are not the ones which I would rely on to. I would definitely take other things into consideration. Very simple. This is my trading style. I do not take one thing and trade. I always take double, triple confirmations before entering into a trade. It's always to be safe rather than being sorry. Now, let me put in some other candles also that we had discussed. The engulfing, the dark cloud cover. Okay. Now we have too many. So now what happens? I don't know which one is what. Well, how do I identify it? Very simple. You roll over it. You see the name at the left side corner of the screen. This is an engulfing bull line, right? Yeah. So again, how let's analyze this chart. What happened here is we have SBI as in having these consolidation over here happening, right? We don't have too much of a volatile movement into it, right? Now what we do here is, okay, again, we'll have to do this thing. Yeah. So what we do here is that we see this as the resistance over here. Now what we look for, we'll look for bearish candle patterns, right? So what did we have over here? A dark cloud cover. So it's at a resistance having a dark cloud cover over here. We see over here what happened in the next candle is just been falling down, right? So if I see at a resistance with a bearish pattern, the next candle, and even if I short at this one, right, I'm taking a 15-minute chart. So I would say, considering it's sold at 325 level, and after that it's gone down to 310. So which is again a 15 rupees move, close to a 4.5 to 5% here. Just dial. Nitish, who's the person so close to Just Dial?
His name is Nihal.
Okay. Hi, Nihal. So, yeah, I hope you're not holding long positions into this one. Because if we see, if we summarize from what has happened yesterday, the stock was in a downtrend, trying to resume an uptrend over here, right? But you look at the momentum of the up move, it is not that great. Now, what is happening over here? If we make a trend line connecting these points, right? I'm just making a random trend line so that I have maximum number of points taken into consideration. Okay, just a second.
Mr. Pankaj Rathi, if you're not able to hear, please reload your page because the webinar is going fine from our end.
Okay, so what happened over here? In Just Dial, we just, it's just a random line, right? We had it moving upward, but it couldn't sustain that and has given a downward breakout. So I wouldn't look for a long trade into this one. I would always look for a short one. So on a smaller time frame, which we will discuss tomorrow when we are doing multiple time frames, that we look for a bearish trade into it. Now, what is happening on the intraday chart? It's hovering over near this auto trend line that we have. So now I will wait. I will just pass on this stock as of now before I get into any position. But the only reason being that if it closes above that, it's going to be my short-term buy. I wouldn't go into a long trade for a positional person. And if it doesn't, I'll definitely short this one for sure. Okay. Getting back to the candlesticks and few more stocks that we have. PVR. Yeah. What's happening with PVR over here? So the software shows me here an engulfing line bear. But what happens? It's just gone opposite to it. It's not a bearish trend. Why did this happen? On dailies, the stock's been an uptrend over here. Auto trend lines giving a downward breakout. We could have a minor pullback and then it could go down further, right? So that's how the candles work. They don't work solely in itself. You will have to have a second confirmation from a support and resistance that we have discussed yesterday, right? A couple of other stocks that we had seen and got over here. HCL Tech. Yeah. The stock's in an uptrend, but it's been, losing much of its momentum over here. Now what happened? From here we have this trend line and we have a dark cloud cover. So certain candlestick patterns work really well for a certain stocks and certain do not. So what you'll have to do is, this will come with practice. You will have to analyze as to which patterns working well for which stock. And that is when you will, have a better hand on it. Is some stocks are like that, which are like very volatile, which will always give you, those small real bodies and all. But then if you see over a longer period of time, they have been moving fantastically towards the upward, or they've been falling down like a knife. Okay, so let's get down to seeing over here. So you see these dojis. This is your dragonfly is your bullish formation. Your gravestone is your bearish. What does it signify psychologically over here is that the price is opened and closed right over here, and it's going to move. So the sellers did try to get the prices down but couldn't succeed into it, and they went back up. So actually the bulls have taken up a charge, and that's when we'll wait for the next candle to be green in color, opening up, and we get into a buy position. Similarly for a gravestone doji. So these are like single ones. Now we always take double candles into confirmation. So that is when your dark cloud cover and your piercing patterns come into a picture. Now, I was telling you that there was just a minor difference between your piercing pattern and your engulfing pattern. If you look very closely over here, your piercing pattern is when your candle body has pierced through the previous one. All right. And your engulfing is when your high and low of the previous candle has been taken up by the entire real body of your next candle. So your bullish engulfing will be when the entire range of your previous candle has been taken up by the body of your engulfing, of your next bullish candle. Similarly within bearish engulfing. These are your bearish cross and your bullish Arami cross. Okay. And so Japanese have made these candlesticks, and they've made it a pretty simple job for us. Just from the name of the candle, you can tell it's a bullish or a bearish candle, right? Okay, so I guess candles were good enough. This is just a brief on it. Now we'll get into something interesting. That's your boring candles. Yeah, the name is boring, but it's pretty interesting over here because we have confirmation in itself from this candle, right? Your boring candles are formed when your real body of the candle is less than 50% of the range. So supposedly, the range moment for the stock has been 10 rupees for the day. That is, your high minus your low has been 10 rupees for the day. But the real body is less than 5, right? So supposedly it opened at, let's say 3, went up to 10, and again closed at, let's say 5. So the body is really small as compared to your range of the day. So that's your boring candle. I mean, it's been a very boring day. Sometimes we do have that thinking, आज कुछ ज्यादा volatility नहीं मिलेगी, कुछ मंदा ही चलने वाला है. You don't get too much of a momentum, right? But here you have momentum. Still, the buyers and sellers are not taking charge of it. So typically we have 4 types of boring candles: your rally based rally, your drop based rally, drop based drop, and rally based drop. Now, these are just the names of it. We'll get into deeper about that thing. What do you mean by a rally? Your rally is nothing but your green candle. Base is your boring candle, your B. And again, a rally is your green candle. Similarly, your drop based rally is nothing but your red candle, and your base candle is your boring candle, and your rally candle is your green candle, right? So what does it say? It's a state of confusion, right? Now what we'll do is we will just go down here to Spider Softwares, where they have an option of helping me see where are the boring candles lying. You just go to, again, I'll just turn it. You just go to settings, your chart settings, and your chart study, where they show you the boring candles. So here you keep your size of the body. Percent is less than 50%, and I would make it blue in color. You have various options, whatever you want to play around with. So I've just set those, and voila, here comes my colorful chart. So now what happens in this? Can we have a couple of stock names again so we can go ahead with taking up an example for this?
Can we have names of the stocks, please, audience?
Or do you want to continue with the same stocks?
Okay, we have HDFC Bank.
Okay.
We have SRF. We have Tata Elxsi
Okay.
and Muthoot Finance, Airtel, Jubilant Food. Okay, thank you guys.
Okay. So we have again 6 names. Thanks, Nitesh. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get to these now. Again, one more thing. Boring candles are for your long-term view. We do not get into intraday play with these, for the only reason being that if you go on intraday, you'll find a lot of those. You'll find a lot of those, right? And if you're a beginner into this thing, I would suggest be into cash markets and trade on dailies. Now, again, very simple. Candlesticks for any formations are of an importance right at the bottom or right at the top, which again I would prefer in this one too, right? If I see this thing over here, consolidation zone over here, right? After that, let's just zoom into it. Yeah, over here. So what did we have? We had a drop, a base, a rally. Okay, so this is near one of my consolidation zones over here, and then I have a drop, my base and my rally. What I would do is that I would keep this base low as my stop loss and go long into this one. All right, and I would go long on this candle. So I had a pretty much chance of getting even at a lower price, or let's supposedly even if you had at an average of this price, which is close to 980 levels, it just kept on venting, like going up, and that's when. So a 100 rupee move in HDFC we could have got easily, which is close to what, let's say 10% of your thing, right? And time span is what? If we consider almost a week and a half. This is how boring candles work. The next stock is SRF. Yeah, lovely. That's like, trading at an all-time high stock. So what I would do is now in an all-time high stock, I want to have my position built in again. What would I do? I would supposedly look at buying it upon a dip, right? I wouldn't come to know from a daily chart if it's a dip or if it's a good position. I'll have to go on a lower time frame chart now. So over here, when it comes to boring candles, I would take a 30-minute chart into consideration, where I would look for a correction and then get into the position of it, right? Again, so after a rally, we had a pause happening at this point in time, right? There was a pause over here. We call it as a pause. It's consolidation. Now what happened over here? A drop, a base, a rally. I could have easily taken up my position at this price, keeping this, the base candle low, as my stop loss, which is 4041, and then just kept on trading on this one with a trailing stop loss, right? Now, if you are a day trader and you want to, book in your profits and all, I generally prefer taking retracements as a way to decide my targets. So I would just make up my retracement levels here. So this is my drop, my base, my rally. I take up my position over here in this candle. So I take my position as at 4070 level, and then I just keep on trailing it with 4041 as my stop loss, or 4040 to round it off. 30 rupees down stop loss, and I just keep on trailing, which we have moved to, let's say, 70, and we are still hovering up and could be moving forward to 4200 plus levels into this thing, right? And once this is crossed, we could see the 100% and then the extended version of the same thing. Now, for ones who don't know what retracements are nothing but when your stock is in an uptrend and has temporarily reversed, that's called a retracement of price. जब आपका stock ऊपर की तरफ जा रहा है और उसमें एक minor correction आती है तो उसे हम retracement कहते हैं, which is also like your buying opportunity again. And ये जो हमने retracement draw करे हैं, these are based on the Fibonacci numbers. जिनको फिबोनाची के बारे में ज्यादा पता नहीं है वो हमारा लास्ट वेबिनार देख सकते हैं, which is on RSI and Fibonacci. Now we have Tata Elxsi. It's just given a break below the auto trend line today. So yeah, we would look for short trade into this one, but I need to have my confirmation. So again, I go on onto the lower time frame. I would pass on this one. Currently, I'm saying pass or not pass based only on my support resistance and the boring candle formation. We are not taking any other factor into consideration. Please, keep that in mind. Every time, not only this, but any particular stock you're analyzing, keep in mind that always analyze based on what strategy you are following. So currently we are following the boring candle strategy, and based on that, we do not have any trades into it. Next one was Muthoot. So yeah, in Muthoot, what do we have currently? We have a rally and we are still at the base level. So we would wait for another candles to form so that we get to know if it is base rally, your rally base and rally, or rally base and drop. So currently we would just wait on for this one. Because over here also we are not getting any particular level into the same thing. As I said, multiple confirmations are always necessary. Then we had Airtel, right? Let's go to Jubilant first. This is like pizzas flying over the place. Yeah. So I would just share with you one of my trade I had taken over here. Yeah. So Jubilant Food, based on our boring candle strategy, first of all, let's identify the trend. The trend is up. Next, do we have any near-term support or resistances over there? Just based on the trend line that's there currently, it's near the trend line support area at the bottom, right? Let's go down to intraday. Do we see any boring candles or not? So yeah, here it's been into a zone over here, right? A breakout above that has taken prices higher, and then it's again taken support at the same levels, right? So this is like my change in polarity which has happened over here. Again, we have taken up a support here at the same level. So now do we see any boring formations over here? So yeah, we do have over here also. If you see, this has been like my drop base in my rally. I would just keep this thing as my stop loss on the lower side and going up. Now, once you have identified a support or a resistance and your drop based rally or your rally based drop, you would find boring candles at a higher frequency on an intraday chart. So I would say that do not take that into consideration too much, right? And look over for a your targets based on your retracements or any other strategy that you want to combine into. Okay, so that's about it for the boring candles. Let's move down to gaps. So what are your gaps? Your gaps are nothing but the prices at which no trades have taken place, and they occur when there is a flow of important news, especially when the markets are closed. So supposedly post market, we generally have this US FDA approval or non-approval or something for the pharma companies, and next day we see a gap up or a gap down. So that is when your news have flowed in, when there has been the markets have not been in working, and that's when you get the gaps. Your upward gap exists when the low of the current day is higher than the previous day. And similarly for a downward gap. You would just see them on the chart. So I'll just remove let them be there. So Spider has this option. You just press the Control Y and you'll be able to see the gaps with two lines over here. So this one had a upward gap over here taking place, right? And this is your upward gap, and for the downward gaps, what better could be an example than this one? Yeah. So this is called a downward gap, right? Now you see some lines over here, the dotted white lines. So this is one of the features by Spider, that the previous gaps that have taken place, so where the prices have not been traded and then later on they have been filled. But still, if you want to see those, because these are also of a significance, they too act as your support and resistances in the future. Over here also, if you see that this gap, particularly in Yes Bank on the downside, got filled. So there was quite a lot of hype where people have been asking that is it a buy in Yes Bank, but that didn't happen. This gap again, acted as a resistance on the top, and prices just went down again from that level. So if you have previous gaps also with you, you will have an idea as to if the prices will be going up or down. Okay. So yeah, these are your upward and downward gaps. Now they even happen because of large cluster of orders that take place. When the future prices of the stock, they are just at a support or a resistance, and just the buyers or either the sellers are going to take over the situation. That's when large cluster of orders are there, and you just have a gap up or a gap down. As I showed you earlier, that your gaps also act as support and resistance. Now there are four types of gaps. Which ones are the important ones and which one is where? Okay. So your four types of gap. First one is your opening gap, which take place at the opening of a session, which do not have too much of a significance, for the reason being that they could get closed down during the session. Then you have your until and unless there's a significant news into it. So if there's a news into it and the stock has been going down, then your opening gaps do have a significance. Otherwise, they do not have. These are like just to be ignored, kind of. Breakaway gaps, they occur at a point of clear resistance and a support. The longer the sideways period, the more likely there will be a larger breakaway gap. So till longer the fight, the longer are the consequences of the same. So runaway gaps, they occur at different points during a clear trend and confirm the trend. And exhaustion gaps are when there is a, a sustained movement which has been there, volatile movement, and again there has been just a reversal from the same. Now there can be a lot of confusion between a runaway and an exhaustion gap, for the only reason being that you can come to know if it's a runaway or an exhaustion gap after a few days of the session, right? So you always build in your positions when you find a runaway gap, but with a trailing stop loss. If the prices have been getting into a consolidation or not giving too much of a momentum, that can result into an exhaustion gap and move downward also, right? Okay, so I would just give one example of the gap formation that we've seen here is Asian Paints. So we can combine, the gap and the two things together into this one, right? Yeah. So over here, what happens with this one is that there have been gaps over here. Now, what do we see over here? It's a drop, base, and rally. And the next day you have a gap. Simply just two confirmations I've got. I would buy into this one with the stop loss at the low of the base and keep on trailing it on the upward side. So if we had got into this one as the price, it's been just going up all the time, right? This is one example that I had from my side. Similarly, Nifty, if I analyze from that point of view, multiple times over here, when I had my channel drawn at this point in time. So once I had the confirmation here that it is at a level. Now what do I do? When I am at this point in time, मेरे को पता नहीं चलेगा कि ये मेरा टॉप होने वाला है कि नहीं है. तो उस टॉप के आसपास क्या एक्टिविटी हो रही है अगर हम देखें तो हमें एक रैली, बेस और एक ड्रॉप, तीन कैंडल मिले हैं. जो मेरा दूसरा कंफर्मेशन हो गया, एक तो मेरा ट्रेंड लाइन मैंने वहां पहले प्रीवियस टॉप से इस टॉप तक ड्रॉ किया यहाँ पे इसको कनेक्ट करके, और दूसरा कंफर्मेशन मेरा बोरिंग कैंडल्स में हुआ जहां पे मेरा रैली था, फिर बेस था और फिर ड्रॉप था. सो मैं इसके हाई को स्टॉप लॉस लेकर शॉर्ट करती हूँ निफ्टी को एंड देन आई कीप ऑन ट्रेलिंग इट ऑन द लोअर साइड. सो डबल कंफर्मेशंस आप देख सकते हैं कितना अच्छे से काम करता है यहाँ पे. सिमिलरली हम लोग अगर अभी भी देखें करंटली, अगर आप ट्रेंड लाइंस नहीं ड्रॉ कर रहे हैं तो सॉफ्टवेयर की मदद से भी हमें कितना अच्छे से पता चलता है. यहां से ये हमारा ट्रेंड लाइन बना था, उसके बाद ये हमारा फर्स्ट हो गया, ये हमारा सेकेंड एंड थर्ड पॉइंट हो गया. यहाँ पे हमें क्या हुआ, हमारा एक ड्रॉप मिला, हमें एक बेस मिला, फिर से एक ड्रॉप मिला. अगर हमने इस कैंडल से भी इसको, ये हमारा कंफर्मेशन तो हो ही गया है, अगर इस कैंडल के हाई से भी हमने शॉर्ट करा है तो हमें ऑलरेडी 300 पॉइंट्स का निफ्टी में मुनाफा मिल चुका है, राइट? So I'll open the house for questions now. If you have any questions related to today's session, you can just post in. We'll take questions for another 10 minutes now.
Hi, Dhwani ma'am. This is Avinash. I will be taking this webinar further with you.
All right. Hi, Avinash.
Hi. So, everyone, please write down your questions in question box. Yeah, there is one question from Sumit. Can we use boring candle in 75-minute time frame?
Yes, you can. Anything higher than a 30-minute time frame is suggestible for using boring candles.
Okay, the next one is today gap down share Concor.
Okay. So you want to have a view on Concor?
Yeah.
So if you see on an, today we do not have any gap down in Concor. Sorry, today
Okay.
we do not have any gap down in Concor. Even if you want a view on Concor, what I would do, I would suggest is that I would go on a daily time frame. First, analyze what is the trend of it. So it's been in a very well consolidation zone. We have had multiple resistance, and as I had told yesterday also, on a daily chart, I prefer taking up a line chart rather than the candlesticks to reduce my volatility. So we see three resistances at the same price level. For now, I wouldn't go long into this one. But as the
Okay.
disclaimer, please consult your investment advisor. Do not come holding my neck. Next question, please.
Okay. Can you explain more on boring candle entry point exactly?
Boring candle entry point. Okay. Um. Okay. There is one more example that we can see. Bajaj Auto. Let's take up this one. I would just give you a earlier one of this thing. One second. Okay, let me hide both of these first. Okay. So if I see this just plain stock over here, right? Right. First of all, the trend is moving, but with not too much of momentum. If you see intraday, there is a good volatility, right? Now, what do we see over here in this one? It's been taking up a consolidation here. But if I see over here, this much of a momentum, okay? After the multiple supports that it's taken up at this level on a line chart, if at this level it's taken up multiple supports, I want to get into a long trade. So I just see this one, I'd see this one, not the later part of it. From here, I'm not seeing, okay? And what I do, I want to get into a long trade at this price. Now I would go down my boring candles. What happens after this and this over here? It's a drop, then my base, and then my rally. Okay. I just have this price movement from here. I draw my retracements from this level. Right. So my drop, my base, my rally, my moment has got confirmed. I had earlier confirmations also over here of two supports at the bottom. So from this level, if I have to go long, I got the second confirmation in my boring candles, and then I go long. I keep on trailing. Here I take entry at my third candle. So my drop, my base, my rally, I take entry at this candle. So this is drop, base, rally, and this candle I take up my entry point. You could take it in the morning of the session. You could take it, if you want to have double confirmations, wait for it, but you will lose on the move. You will have lag. So keep this low as your stop loss, and then just buy in over here and keep on trailing your stop losses. And retracements will help you in identifying your next target prices for the same. So if you are a investor, you could go into partial booking of your profit, and if you just want to hold it, you have the risk appetite for the same, keep on holding it and trailing it. Next question, please.
Okay.
Was this good enough, or you have any other doubts?
I think that's good. So we'll move on to next question. How to
Yeah.
use trailing stop loss in boring candle?
So, trailing stop loss and boring candles. So again, I told you that you have retracements over here. I think I answered it in this only. I'll repeat again. I've taken up my entry at this point in time. I'll book my, if I'm not booking my profits, I'll keep my stop loss at this. Once the prices have entered this level, right, then again I'll just keep on moving upwards. So every time I've taken my entry over here, and we are taking it up as a position, so we do not take lows of the day into consideration. We just take the closing prices into consideration, right? So if this is 2609, so I'll keep my stop loss at 2600, having taken up my, one second, yeah, having taken up my entry over here, right, at 2500, I'll trail my stop loss to 2600 and then just keep on moving further into it. Trailing stop loss totally depends upon your risk appetite, as to how you want to do, and if you want to quantify it, you have a good risk appetite, then quantify it by the levels over here of the Fibonacci. Yeah. Anything else?
Okay, yeah. One more question. Kindly suggest parameter setting to be used in query for boring candles.
I guess you can get in touch with Spider for that thing. They have even a inbuilt query where you can identify where the boring candle formations based on the four types that we discussed are there. If you want to have the basic setting is just over here. Go to settings, go to your chart settings, then you will have your chart study here, right? Showing boring candle of body size percent less than 50% and in blue color. I prefer blue color. You could go into any other color you want and then just set it up. Next question.
Okay. How we draw demand zone in Spider?
Okay, so how you draw a demand zone in Spider? In Spider, you have just go Control E. You have a horizontal line over here. Take it up, click on your chart, and voila, I have my zone. So here you cannot draw a bold zone kind of, you will just have to have an approximation line, and your line should quantify maximum number of touch points into it, and that's when you'll have an approximation. You cannot have a proper bold zone into this thing, or else you could just for your mental piece you could just take in again and like draw double lines, so you'll have double lines wherein this particular price gap would define your zone into it. Simple.
Okay, that's all for today's webinar. Should we wait for some more questions?
No, I guess if the questions are done, we could just end for the day.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we are going to discuss on multiple time frame analysis as to how combining all of these four things that we have discussed and going down to multiple time frame based on your trading style. So if you're a day trader, you're a swing trader, or you're a positional trader, what time frame is useful for you in particular. So if you're a day trader, you wouldn't go down to weekly charts. That is when I said that somebody asking for a PVR weekly is an investor, is not a day trader for me, right? So we will discuss the time frames based on your trading style and combining the techniques that we have learned in the last yesterday's and today's session. That's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dhwani ma'am, for this wonderful session. I request you all to kindly share your suggestion with us at marketing@spidersoftwareindia.com. Okay, now we'll be ending this webinar. Thank you for joining this webinar. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.